Hey everyone, I'm Leah from TYFU, and I'm very excited for this TYFU chat with Stephanie Zuniga-Maher, a true HR and diversity expert with a wealth of experience in recruitment and career coaching. Stephanie has worked with amazing companies like Canva and Splunk, and her career journey has been full of twists and turns, including her recent experience with redundancy, which she navigated with grace and resilience, and now she's landed a fantastic new role. We'll be talking about her career background, her personal experience with redundancy, and her inspiring outlook on what can be a challenging job search journey. Stephanie, thanks so much for chatting with TYFU. I
Thank
think you
you.
are the perfect person. I think I've said this to you before, to be sharing your experience with job seekers out there who might be going through a tough time. So thank you.
No, it's my pleasure. And I'm so excited to be here and so excited to talk to you. And hopefully there's some little nuggets that I can share that about my experience that will help others.
I'm sure, I'm sure. I thought we could hear a little bit about your career background first, because you have had such a a rich career in, HR, recruitment, career coaching, diversity. Do you want to share a little bit about your career history with us?
Yeah, so I'm originally from Washington, D.C. in the U.S. I moved to Australia just over 20 years ago as a student, as an international student, doing my master's degree. And my very first job in Australia, I literally wandered into Manpower, the recruitment agency, for part-time work, and they put me on their reception desk. So that was kind of my start, literally falling into recruitment, and then realized that recruitment actually looked like quite a lot of fun, and I really liked talking to people and kind of had the personality to be a recruiter. And so I moved to Talent International, and I was at Talent International doing IT recruitment for a number of years, really kind of recruiting for the tech sector. And so
Hmm.
I spent many years in agency recruitment before moving into talent acquisition and more kind of an HR focused role at Splunk. And I guess before I went to Splunk, I'll just kind of backtrack a little bit. I've always been super passionate and had really good exposure to what's now called diversity, equity, and inclusion. We didn't really call it that in the 80s and 90s, and now we kind of know it as diversity, equity, and inclusion. My minor in college was women's studies. I was always sort of interested in, having seen my mother and her friends kind of be working women. In fact, I wasn't allowed to have a Barbie doll until Barbie had a job. So my
Oh,
very
wow. Love that. What
was
is,
day and night
wow.
Barbie. She had the
Mhm.
business suit and the cocktail dress underneath, and I had her home office playset. So that was kind of like the influences around me. Something happened in the early 90s that really influenced me. And that was one of my mother's Wellesley classmates, who's actually in the picture behind us, became first lady. And all of a sudden she was criticized for all of these choices she had made about having a career. Why didn't you stay home and bake cookies? Why are you a lawyer? And it really was like, well, hang on a second. All the women around me are career women. Like,
Mhm.
why is this being criticized? So that kind of sent me off into the women's studies path and kind of studying
Yeah.
what is this and why is this.
Yeah.
Jump back to to my role at PeopleBank, where the day or 2 days before I went on mat leave, they gave me a copy of the book Lean In by Sheryl Sandberg.
Okay.
I was literally 9 months pregnant, about to pop and have a
Have a
child.
baby.
Last
Yeah.
thing I was thinking about was
Hmm.
career and work and things like that. So that book sat on my nightstand for about a year. But finally picked it up, read it, and it was like, oh my God, the things that I'm worried about in terms of going back to work, the things that I've seen in the tech industry with women not being represented, these were things that were still going on. All of those things I thought, I studied as history as part of women's studies. It's like, oh
Right.
my God, this is actually happening and happening to me, and I'm experiencing this now.
Eye-opening. Yeah.
Very eye-opening. And that kind of sent me into the I want to do DEI as a
Okay.
that's
Yes.
what kind of
So
sparked.
reading the book was a catalyst for,
It
you
was one of those
actually moving into that as a profession.
it was like a light bulb moment of like,
Mm. Yeah.
this isn't fixed. It was like, what can I do? How can I play my part to change this?
Yeah.
Reading isn't going to be enough. Recruiting is great, but I really want to make more of an impact. So off I went to Splunk and was working in a TA role that had a lot to do with inclusive recruitment, inclusive hiring, and then was like looking on LinkedIn one day, and this amazing role at Canva came up as an inclusive recruiting partner. I went there and then moved into a pure diversity and belonging role from there. Absolutely loved Canva, one of the best places, if not the best place I've ever worked. Was there for 2.5 years, and then one day last September, I had the dreaded meeting request,
Yes.
that you kind of get out of the blue and
Hmm.
tell by the people on it. It's like, this is not a normal meeting. What's going on?
Right.
So had the whole, unfortunately, your role's been made redundant. How can we support you? We'll do whatever we can, but let us know when you'd like your last day to be sometime in the next 3 or 4 weeks. And it was like,
Wow.
so it's that moment where you kind of feel like the rug really has been pulled out
Yes.
from under you.
That is a tough thing to navigate for sure. It's very challenging, especially when you don't see it coming. I've spoken to lots of job seekers who kind of knew the business wasn't doing well and that was kind of on the cards and they were able to prepare and, have their resume in order and start making connections. So it's a little bit easier if you're fortunate enough to face redundancy that way. But when you don't see it coming and you're not prepared, it's definitely it's so hard to navigate. What do you think was the biggest challenge that you faced during this period, and how did you try and overcome it?
It was the surprise. It was also that little voice in your head that's like, why me? What did I do?
Mm,
How, and also that kind of, how did I not see this coming? The only thing I can really compare it to is like getting dumped out of the blue.
yeah,
It's like, what is it about me? Or what did I do? How can I make this better? Is there anything I can change? And then you kind of have to take that step back through time and realize it's not, it's nothing you did wrong. I mean,
right.
sometimes
You can't take it personally.
but
Yeah.
it's not personal. It's a business decision. And I think
Hmm.
something that was really hard to kind of process was that when you work with people that you really like in an environment that you really like, you do take it very personally. But then at the end of the day, it's all business. It
Yes.
doesn't have anything to do with how they feel about you.
Right.
In fact, it was probably a very difficult conversation for them as well. But
Yes.
it's not personal. It's seeing it from everyone's side. And it's like,
Yeah.
well, if someone had to be made redundant, I'm happy, like in some ways, I've gotten to the point where it's like, actually, I'm happy it was me because
Hmm.
I know that I have the tools and I have the self-confidence and
Right.
the life to be able to kind of handle it. I
Yeah.
wouldn't wish it on anyone else, and it's kind of
Yeah.
like, well, why me? It's like, well, if it wasn't going to be me, it would have been someone else on the team who I
Yeah.
love and respect and, have a lot
Yeah.
of time for as well. So in some ways, it's like, well, if it had to happen,
Yeah.
oh, well.
Yeah. Absolutely. No, that's an amazing outlook that you've got there. Um, any advice that you would give to somebody so that is going through redundancy? So,
I would also say, and I think you know, don't dwell, but still feel your feelings. Like you're going to go through a lot of feelings. It's going to be an up and down. It is a loss, and it's a loss that you can't control. So there's
mhm.
a lot of feelings that will come up. Feel them, think about them. Don't sit there and dwell and, oh, woe is,
Ruminate. Yeah.
but it's okay to feel things.
Yeah.
So feel them and then think about what's next.
Hmm.
I think really staying focused, number one, on like looking forward instead of looking back.
Yeah.
And also thinking about how can you stay active and stay busy.
Yeah.
And I think that was the other thing that really helped me. It's like, let me keep doing things. Because the second you stop and the second that you really start to kind of like sit
Yeah.
in a bad place of like, oh,
It would be easy to spiral into a dark mindset for sure if you've got too much time and you're not keeping busy. What kind of things were you doing to keep busy? Can I ask?
yeah, well, look, um, one of the first things I did was I actually reached out to a lot of my contacts I had made. And I think probably one of the first things I did was actually I saw the article about you and I think I messaged.
Yes, we connected. Yeah, very early on. Yes.
So continuing to make those connections because of my background in TA and recruitment, I wanted to start doing career coaching and career counseling. And I'd also done some fireside chats and some kind of consulting work in the past. So within probably about 3 or 4 days, I'd set up my own ABN. I'm like, right,
Amazing.
don't know what the future holds, but I
Hmm.
want to get myself in a position where I can be ready to, I guess, accept anything that comes my way and to
Yes.
really kind of start to be proactive about, all
Being
right,
open to opportunities.
exactly.
Yeah.
And just having a really open mind as well, I think.
Yeah.
And part of it is the benefit of having worked around people making career transitions and having career changes and job changes for my
Yeah.
entire career is that a lot of that, I guess the fear in some ways wasn't necessarily there. I think
Mm,
who aren't constantly around people getting new jobs, losing jobs, changing jobs.
Right.
It's almost
A
this
lot,
like,
a lot
where
scarier.
it's a
Yeah.
lot scarier. Whereas for me, it's part of life.
Mm-hmm.
Very few people have had their last job.
Yeah.
Very few people will die doing the job that they're doing today.
Absolutely.
Hope not,
Yes.
you
Yeah.
know. But the reality is that you're going to have more, you're going to have another first day at work. You're
Yeah.
going to have another last day at work too. This is all part of the
Yeah.
flow of your career.
Yes.
And being able to really look at that and look at the change that is natural and is natural part of growing and developing in your career, I think
Mm-hmm.
that's something that really helped my mindset in terms of like, this is just the next thing, the next.
Was there any way that you kept a strong mindset when you're not hearing back from, you apply for a job and you might not hear back, or you might get a rejection letter or something? How did you personally maintain a strong mindset when you're dealing with radio silence or or rejection or whatever it may be? Was that hard to navigate or
Oh, it's extremely hard to navigate. And again, something that really helped me was having sat on the other fence as a recruiter
yeah,
and as someone who either worked in agency or worked in TA. It's not personal. No one is rejecting you as a person, your words on a page. And it was really going back to, look, they don't know me. It's not like we've been, this isn't my best friend saying, I don't like you anymore. I don't
right.
see you. This
Yeah,
is someone who knows nothing about me past either words that they may not have even seen.
yeah.
So it could be that my CV is sitting in their inbox. They haven't even opened it because they're dealing with 37 other thousand things and 37 other people.
Mm-hmm.
It could be that I'm just not right for that role.
Yeah.
And I think again, it's about not taking it personally.
Yes.
Recruiters are human. Recruiters aren't perfect as much as they would like to call and chat to every single person. They're only a certain number of hours in the day.
Yeah.
And especially if it's a role that looks really good with great pay at a great company, they're getting inundated with people, not just really qualified applicants, but people who are just sending out their CV because it says, I don't know, analyst in the title and they have that lead.
Right.
And so they're firing it off.
Yeah.
So it's kind of understanding the recruiter's mindset as well
Mm-hmm.
and really being quite, I won't say selective, but understanding that number one, it is a numbers game.
Yeah.
So if you apply for two jobs, it's highly unlikely that you're going to get hired because
Yeah.
the numbers game, but also kind of understanding what my skill set is and where my skills are and what actually matches and where I can actually add value. And it
Yeah.
did take, it took quite a few applications to get interviews. And also, I had to go to some interviews and sit there and be like, I actually would never, ever, ever work in this place. And I don't want to work with these people. And it's knowing that's a two-way process. They're
Yes.
looking for someone, but you're looking for something as well.
Yes. Yeah.
And
It's like
yeah,
finding a partner, I
it
suppose.
is. It's
You
so
have
much
to
like dating.
be yeah, well matched and well aligned.
Exactly. So I think, that's probably the best analogies. It's like dating. If you are lucky enough to marry your high school sweetheart, the first person that you've ever kissed and be with them forever, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know anyone that's happened to.
No, I think most people have to kiss a few frogs before they find their prince. Yeah.
Exactly. And go on a few dates that with
Yeah.
people who are like, oh, you seem really nice. And then it's like, I never want to see you again.
Right.
And
Yeah.
that's the same thing with job searching. You learn a lot about you and what you don't want by
Mm-hmm.
going to some interviews and talking to people that you don't like. But
Yeah.
also, every no or everything you say no to is getting you closer to the right
Yes. The
and
right
the
one.
job and the right opportunity.
Yeah. I love your pragmatic outlook and your positive attitude. I think it is so necessary when you are job seeking, and you have it in spades. So it's
Well, look,
fantastic.
I'm not always like this. Like there's a reflection. My husband, there are some days it's like,
Yeah.
why? And he's like, you gotta get up, you gotta take our son to school, you gotta
Yeah.
keep moving. It's like, okay, right. You
Yeah.
know, you just have
Yep.
to keep moving forward. Not to say that I didn't do crossword puzzles and jigsaw puzzles and watch Netflix and do all those really fun things that I kind of miss now that I'm working again.
Right. I
It
was
is.
going to say, did you enjoy your time off? Because often job seekers, they're so focused, I guess, on getting a job that it's hard to enjoy it. But did you manage to enjoy some time off?
I did. And I think at first I was definitely in that like, have to find a job. This is awful. What am I going to do? And that kind of initial panic of like, I've defined myself so much by what I do
Right.
between 8:30 and 5:30
Hmm.
that without that, who am I? And how do I live my life if I'm not working at Canva or if I'm not employed?
Yep.
Came a point where I kind of relaxed into and I was really leaning into, oh, I can go to the gym whenever I want, or oh, I can get my nails done, or oh, this
Right.
tipping point or pointless. It's like, oh, I can
Yep.
walk that and bake some cookies and really kind of enjoy my time a little bit more. But that wasn't my first reaction.
Yep.
And then, a couple weeks ago before I was going back to work, it's like, I need more time off. I haven't done the things I
Of
wanted to
course.
do. It's like,
Yeah.
come on now. But it is, I mean, in a lot of ways, that time was a gift. That
Yes.
time of not working meant that I was there for school pickup. I was there to, drive my child to all of his activities. And instead of being the mom on the laptop who's, yeah, okay, good job.
Half
I
present. Yep.
exactly, I was actually present in
Mm.
the moment for all of the things that really are why we work, if that makes sense.
Yes.
You know, again, we work to earn money, we work for
Yep.
self-fulfillment, but at the end
Mm.
of the day, working for the other people in our lives in a lot of cases. So I was actually able to enjoy my life.
Absolutely. Yeah. What would be your top advice? Because you do have sort of recruitment, like sort of experience as well, for somebody who is looking for a job right now and is trying to stand out in a crowded market. Would you say follow up after every like time you apply for a job? Would you say just wait for the recruiter to get back to you? Um, like, would you say just send out hundreds and hundreds of applications and see what sticks, or would you say be selective and really tailor your applications to each role? Because there's so much conflicting
Yes.
advice out there, and it depends who you speak to. So I'd just be curious to see what your best advice would be.
Yeah, I think there's so much conflicting advice because every recruiter is different, every
Yes.
TA person is different, and
Yeah.
every role is different as well. Uh,
Hmm.
I think for me, my advice would be to pick your battles.
Okay.
It's okay to send out, and again, depending on what industry you're in, it's okay to apply for 5 roles a day, but all 5 roles aren't going to be your dream role.
Yeah.
So if there's one that stands out, or if there's two that you really think you have a good case for, definitely follow up. Reach out to the recruiter on LinkedIn. Is if there's a name on the
Right.
app, which sometimes
Application.
there isn't.
Mm.
Depending on your industry, you probably know someone who knows someone who knows someone who
Yep.
works for that company. Go that way. Try to network your way into saying, "Hey, do you know this person that works at ABC company?" And try to kind of, network and make those connections. But you're
Yes.
not going to do that for every role because every role is not your dream role. But if
Yep.
there's one that really stands out or two that really stand out, invest the time in doing the investigation. And
Right.
it still is a numbers game. So if you do, and again, I threw out 5 as a random number. I think I was
Yeah.
trying to look for one or
Right.
two jobs a week to
Yeah.
apply to. Um, but if you can have the luxury of applying for lots of different jobs that you think you're actually a good fit for,
Yep.
sure, do it.
Do it. Okay.
But understand that your name will keep popping up in someone's inbox again and again and again, especially if they're an agency recruiter who works in a certain sector. Don't be the person who there are 25 different CVs for
For
the same
different roles.
agency
Yeah.
for the same thing. You're
Yeah.
just and again, there's a balance between desperation
Yep.
and interested. And
Yep.
again, just like with dating, it's like if you're calling that person 25 times and they don't call you back, maybe back off.
Gotta play it cool a little bit. Yeah.
Cool. But at the same time, you show that you're interested, show that you've done the research in terms of why you're a good fit. And
Yes.
if you do call an agency recruiter, call with like a very good reason. Hey, I've applied for X role. I'm really interested because one, two, three.
Yep.
Call with a story. Don't just call and say, hey, I'm just following up.
Yeah.
Great.
Um, absolutely. And I also just wanted to touch on the importance of networking. So I actually got an email from I have to respond to her still, a TYFU member. I made an introduction to somebody in my network and she's just got a job and she was over the moon. So I feel like it is you just never know who's going to be able to help you. So I think it's always worth putting out into the universe what role you're looking for or what company and letting your contacts know that you're looking for a job. Did you do that? Did you kind of put it out to the universe? Were you calling up people in your network and did you get any sort of traction from people in your network?
Yeah, I very much did. I mean, obviously being an ex recruiter, LinkedIn is like my BFF. So I definitely posted on LinkedIn. I put that I was open to work. I messaged, my old boss. I messaged people that I used to work for who I knew were working at places. I was very proactive in terms
Yeah.
of reaching out to groups, of people who I'd met before who I knew people in this space and in my space.
Yes.
Um, but also just always being open to making those new connections because you never know.
Yeah.
Reaching out to people who I'd been on panels with before. I'm like, hey, just if you hear of anything,
Yeah.
please let me know. Keep your eye out. I'm on the
Mhm.
market. And again, it doesn't have to be in your face. It doesn't have to be, ah,
Right.
but
Yeah.
just that, like, hey, if
Yeah.
you have anything, do you know this person? Can you help me with this? Because
Yeah.
people want to help. Like, generally speaking, people want you to have a job. They want to
Yes.
help you. They'll do whatever they can,
Yeah.
unless you really wrong someone in the past. You're like, no, I just want you to starve. You can just be an unemployed.
Right.
People will try to help where they
To
can.
help. Yeah.
And it's also that little thing of if you do have an interview, see who you know at that company, get some inside tips, see what you can find
Yeah.
out, do that little bit of due diligence and kind of
Digging.
ground digging.
Mm.
Oh, I see that you work at, I don't know, Zoom, or you work at blah 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 blah.
Do you know someone there? Yeah.
Like, so I think it's just that kind
Yeah.
of again, kind of like dating where you do that you with
Mm.
your friends. Do you know this?
Yeah.
Are they dodgy? Are they okay?
Right.
That kind of due diligence.
Yeah. I think it's just such a powerful tool. And I think people are using their networks to their advantage a lot more now, thanks to like platforms like LinkedIn and there's a lot more in-person networking happening these days and yeah, meetings and conferences and stuff. So it's readily available and just yeah, you have to
And I
tap
think
into.
also, oh, sorry,
Yeah,
not to cut you.
sorry.
But I think it's also super important to be open to conversations. It
Mm,
may not lead exactly where you want, but
yeah.
it might lead you in the right direction or in a direction. And thinking about the job that I have now, I applied for a job that looked good, but not great. Went for the interview. In the interview, I'm like, this is not the right role for me. Just a bit more junior than I had wanted. And then kind of walked out and was like, oh, okay, well, they were nice people. The next day got a phone call of like, hey, we don't think you're right for this role, but there's this other role that's come up. Would you be interested? And so again, you kind of saying yes to the first interview,
Yeah.
even though it wasn't amazing, but I still prepared,
Hmm.
did everything that I needed to
Yeah.
do, led to getting, another opportunity that
So
hadn't been advertised.
staying open is yes to opportunity and don't shut things down too prematurely because you just never know. I also
Mhm.
had a similar experience. I had interviewed for a job and I think they had said it was probably a little bit too junior. And then a couple of weeks later, I got a call and ended up getting that job. So it does happen.
It does happen. That's why you have to be nice to everyone, always be on
Mm,
best behavior, because
yeah,
you just never know what
you
might
never know.
happen.
Yeah. Can we just also talk about career coaching very quickly? Because I know some of our TYFU members were so fortunate to have, a free mentoring session with you, and the feedback was amazing. It can be a really powerful tool if you find the right career coach. What is your advice on how somebody can make sure they're with a career coach that's actually like a good fit for them and that will be helpful? Because there
Mhm.
are a lot of career coaches out there, and a lot of them do have like the credentials these days, but how do you know if they're going to be the right fit?
I think it's like any time that you engage someone, and this is a horrible answer, but I'm going to say it comes down to the vibes. Can you actually talk to them? Do you feel comfortable around them? Because so much of the answers that you give people in coaching, you're not necessarily giving them the blueprint of this is what you do. You're
Mm,
talking to them to kind of get them to find it themselves. And you're being a sounding board. So if you're working with a coach and you don't feel like you can actually be honest and be open and be yourself around them, then they're probably not the right coach. And so again, there's no like, oh, you have to do this, you have to do that. A lot of it comes down to your gut feeling. How do you feel about the person? How do you feel working with them?
Yeah,
Are they giving you good feedback or sorry, are they giving you valuable feedback for you? Not
right.
necessarily for jobs in general, but specifically for you.
Yeah,
So again, there are a million and one things on LinkedIn, on the internet, how to get a job, how to interview, blah, blah, blah. But coaching is really about working individual and individual on quite a tailored discussion, not
yeah.
that general, do this, do that. So I think that, again, vibes,
It's about a vibe and a fit.
which is
Yeah,
why I hate saying that, but it
that's
really is.
what it boils down to.
Yeah.
Yes. Amazing. Stephanie, I won't keep you for too much longer. I just wanted to say that it has been so refreshing speaking to you. Very insightful, and I'm so appreciative of you sharing your journey because often it can be hard to talk about difficult experiences and redundancy and stuff. But I think you sharing it is just so powerful and helpful. And I think this chat is actually going to really help people out there who might be dealing with something similar, and knowing that they're not alone and that you can navigate through and you'll have bad days and yeah, embrace those feelings and just don't dwell on them. So thank you so much.
Yep, amazing. It's been so lovely to talk to you. And I absolutely love the TYFU community. And so if anyone's listening and they want to reach out to me, please feel free to contact me on LinkedIn. I am quite lucky in that I'm the only Zuniga-Maher in the world. So it's fine.
I will share your LinkedIn profile in the notes of this chat as well, so it's easy for people to find you. Thank you so much. And anybody watching, if you do need support at any time, feel free to reach out to TYFU. Thank you, Stephanie, and best of luck with your new role.
Thank you. And thank you so much. And thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.